And as we saw, we had addition by subtraction. We took Project Pat out. We took Drewski Pat out. We took Slot Pat out. And we did better as a team. All right. Welcome back, y'all. Trick or treat. That's what it seems to have been for the Ravens for the past week and some change. We've gotten a lot of treats and maybe one trick. Let's start off with the treats. First, we were blessed with a Thursday night matchup that we won against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that was a treat having a non-Sunday game. Kept us up a little bit late, but what are you going to do? Then on Monday, we went out and we traded for Chicago Bears or former Chicago Bears linebacker Roquan Smith. For me, I think it was an excellent signing. We need a middle linebacker with some athleticism, being with Alvin Kamara coming up on Monday night. Now, not all of it was treats. We got tricked. Well, some of us got tricked. Not everybody felt this way. But on Tuesday, with the 4 p.m. trade deadline approaching, we all waited with bated breath just to see what the Ravens were going to do. We all figured, hey, it's quite possible we might trade and get an offensive weapon, but we got tricked. We did not. We stood pat. We did nothing. Roquan Smith was it. Have a good day. Good night, and thank you, is what the Ravens told us pretty much. Then, to top all of that off, we have a Monday night matchup in the Superdome with the New Orleans Saints. Now, it's kind of rare that we get on Monday Night Football. I'll take it. I still think the league owes us more home Monday night games. I don't know how Jacksonville, Detroit, and all these other teams that have been sorry for years seem to host more games than we do, but that is a discussion for another time. Now back to Roquan Smith. In the trade, we gave up our 2nd and 5th round pick in the 2023 draft, which now leaves us with 5 draft picks. I know EDC is losing his mind and is pulling his hair out because he needs draft picks. He needs at-bats. He needs as many swings as possible to draft as many people as possible because we have needs. I mean, we're a good team, but we're not perfect. But we have an all-pro linebacker, in my opinion, coming in. He's only 25 years of age. He's a beast in the run game. He's a tackling machine, and he can get sacks. Listen, in 5 years, he has 16 and a half sacks and 7 interceptions. He is a playmaker. He can cover tight ends and backs out of the backfield. That is one thing that we were sorely missing with another linebacker that we have. He is ascending, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to coverage, this other guy, he who will not be named, still has problems with coverage. But now we have a guy that we can put in the middle and maybe take this defense to new heights. Now, what does this trade all mean? What is to come of this? Because we could have made this move back in training camp when Roquan was holding out and he didn't want to be a Bear. We could have done this then and kind of solidified things at an earlier date. To me, this signifies the end for Patrick Queen. Oh, I said his name. I'm just kidding. This signifies the end possibly for him. They are not looking into giving him his 5th-year option. They may move on from him. They may try to trade him to recoup some of those draft picks. Does this Roquan Smith signing have anything to do with them kind of knowing Lamar's not coming back next year and they want to go all defense so that they can put Huntley or somebody else in and kind of have a game manager and win games defensively like we used to? Or could it be that Roquan is just a 1-year rental? I would hope not, being the draft capital that we gave up for him, but he's going to command big money. I know people have speculated that we could franchise tag him, but I do think that franchise tag is already reserved for someone else. So we may have to go a different route. Now, that contract could be in upwards of $100 million. Now, the salary cap's going up significantly next year, but as a franchise, we don't like giving out big money contracts, especially to certain positions. If not, we would have kept Zadarius Smith. We would have kept CJ Mosley. We would have kept Matthew Judon. We're just not into giving big money to linebackers. Or have things changed? Have we turned a corner and we're kind of pivoting in philosophy or changing some things because they know this may be it as far as a Super Bowl run with Lamar as quarterback. So Roquan spoke to the media today for the first time. He has chosen number 18. I really didn't catch why he chose the number, but he said, new team, new surroundings, something a little bit different. I don't know why 18 though. I mean, I know he had 58, but why 18? Ugh. It just gives me Elvis Gerback vibes. I'm not feeling that number. Gives me quarterback vibes for a linebacker. It'll take some getting used to, but it is what it is. He seems really excited to be in Baltimore. Like you could actually see the joy in his face, and you could hear it in his voice that he's happy to be out of that situation in Chicago. But being that we are the Baltimore Ravens and we have to stir up trouble and just go with the nonsense here, one of the reporters asked him, was he representing himself? It's his first press conference. Let that man breathe. Let that man get acclimated. Ask him football questions. Why are you asking him, is he representing himself? It's not really important right now. What's important is, can he help us win? Can he help us get over that hump? But us being messy, like we always are, we just have to pry into it. And then they kind of speculated, hey, are you going to go to Lamar for some advice because he doesn't have an agent as well? Let it go. Let it go. He let them know. Trailblazers. Like, it's a new time. It's a new regime. These young kids aren't thinking like the old guard. They're doing things their own way. And it wasn't about just paying an agent money. He said, listen, that extra money that I pay an agent, I could give it to a charity. I could do other things with that money. And that kind of shut them up a little bit. But you know what's on their minds because they don't want them representing themselves. Now, let's jump into this game. So let's start off with the injury news, which I don't have much of right now, being that it is Wednesday and the injury report is not out. But we do know that Andrews is dealing with a shoulder injury. Rashad Bateman's dealing with that foot injury. Gus Edwards has the hamstring. I doubt that any of those three may be available for the game, except for maybe Andrews. He might try to tough it out, but I think that they should let him rest. We have a habit of rushing people back from injury, and it only makes it worse and prolongs them contributing to the team. Now, in the good news, it seems like we're getting Tyus Bowser back this game. David Ajabo is that much closer to returning. He's been scheduled to practice and play, but I don't think that they're going to rush him back as of yet. But we're the Baltimore Ravens, so you just never know. And for the New Orleans Saints, I'm not sure if Marshawn Lattimore's playing. I heard some rumors about he wasn't. I really don't know. We won't find out until tomorrow afternoon who's going to play, who's not, who's a game time decision. But I do know that I think they are getting Jarvis Landry back. That should help the offense a little bit. Andy Dalton is Andy Dalton. He needs all the help he can get, but we'll see. Now, for my keys to the game, first up, most importantly, is going to be newly acquired Roquan Smith versus Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is a problem. Somehow, he's not one of the bigger dudes, but he's hard to tackle. I see him slip past dudes, bounce off of guys, and get the extra yardage. I don't know how he does it. He's done it ever since he's been in college. He's just a bad man. Now, where he concerns me is not necessarily him running the ball, but catching passes out of the backfield. And that's where Roquan Smith comes in because he specializes at that. He specializes in covering backs out of the backfield. Last time they played, I think Roquan kind of shut him down a little bit. That's going to be his responsibility. Listen, I'm sure he doesn't know the defense or the ins and outs of the defense. So, hey, listen, let's just play cat defense. You got that cat right there. You follow him around. You guard him. And I think that will be one of the most important matchups of this game. Next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens offensive line versus Cameron Jordan. Even after all these years, Cameron Jordan is still a game wrecker. This guy's motor is endless. He is super strong, and he knows how to get to the quarterback. Now, I don't know where he's going to line up, but I think they may move him around this game. But I'm pretty sure I'd put him on Morgan Moses, so he may need some help back there. But Cameron Jordan can change the scheme of this game. Lamar has to be very aware of ball security because this man, not only does he sack, he forces fumbles. So we might have to chip keep some people on him and watch out for Cameron Jordan. And that may free up Marcus Davenport. But I think for me, the main concern is always going to be Cameron Jordan. And my third and final key matchup is possibly going to be the Baltimore Ravens wide receivers versus the New Orleans Saints cornerbacks. Listen, they have Marshawn Lattimore. They have Tyrann Mathieu. We, as skill positions, they aren't the best. They pick and choose their spots. But if they get that tight coverage, it may be a problem, especially if we can't run the ball. Now, don't sleep. New Orleans had some injuries, but the last couple of games, they've been getting their groove back together. So we need to beat one-on-ones and actually give James Prochet a chance and let that man shine, because he's been getting open the last couple of games. He may not have been getting the ball, but he's been doing his thing. Like, I can't take it from him. He may not be the most talented wide receiver. Teams may not be covering him, but he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's getting open. And those are my 3 keys to this game. So now last week, on Thursday Night Football, the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 27-22 Thursday Night Football. It wasn't the perfect game, but I do think it was a much needed game for certain aspects. Now, first half, we threw the ball a lot. Granted, a lot of people weren't happy with it, but looking back at it, for me, I think it was the right call. Listen, 3/4 of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary was injured. They were down to second, third, fourth string cornerbacks, safeties. So, of course, you attack that area of weakness. It just didn't work out for us for some reason. We just weren't connecting. Lamar threw the ball 30 times. It didn't look good. Once again, we thought, what was us? This is not going to turn out right on national TV with everyone watching. But credits to Greg Roman and the staff. They made the adequate changes in the second half. Now, did some of it have to do with Mark Andrews not being there? I really don't know, but they made the moves nonetheless. Now, one of the big things that happened was we kind of took Pat Ricard out the game. I don't know about you, but for me personally, I'm getting really sick and tired of seeing Pat Ricard go in motion. It kind of tips off the defense what we're doing. When he's in the game, it tips off teams, and it's giving us one less receiver to run a pattern to get open and give Lamar an option to pass the ball. But they saw the error in their ways, and they took him out. I think he only played 59% of snaps, which is still too high, but it's a lot less than he normally plays. And that gave us an opportunity to get back to what we do best, running the ball. When you take Pat Ricard out, the tendency is we're not going to run the ball, but we did, and we did it effectively. Lamar threw the ball 8 times for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. Turned the whole game around. We won. Now, last week, the New Orleans Saints beat the Las Vegas Raiders 24-0. I didn't see that coming. I would think I might have picked the Raiders to win. I'm not for certain. But anytime you have Andy Dalton as quarterback, you pretty much go against that. You go against whatever team he's playing for at that time. But New Orleans dominated. Listen, Alvin Kamara was Alvin Kamara. But defensively is where they got back to what Dennis Allen's specialty is. They held the Raiders to 183 yards total, not passing, not rushing. They held them to 183 yards total. It took the Raiders until the fourth quarter to make it past midfield. They had 38 yards rushing. Now, I know people are going to say it's the Raiders, Derek Carr, it's the Raiders. If you look back at it, Josh Jacobs, he's been running over teams these past few weeks. You have Derek Carr throwing to Devontae Adams. And in this game, Devontae Adams had 1 catch for 3 yards. 1 catch for 3 yards. I don't care what team it is. That is impressive. That is very impressive. I need the Raiders to get it together because I got the biggest matchup of fantasy this week. 8-0 versus 8-0 in the LBHT Fantasy Football Dynasty League. So we're the last 2 undefeated teams. We're going head to head. I need Devontae to pick that up. But anywho, the Saints dominated that game defensively, and let us not think that it cannot carry over into this next game. Like they have some pieces on defense to shut down our running game and make us pass it. Then when we pass, they have the corners and safeties to actually slow us down. So let's not think that this is going to be a cakewalk game. Let's not think that we're going to go out there and blow New Orleans out because of Andy Dalton and Dennis Allen. You would think that, but it's the NFL and you never know. And it's Monday Night Football. Weirder things have happened. Listen, last time we played the Saints was in 2018. We lost 24-23. And when I say weirder things can happen, once again, we were up 17 points. And we came back at the end, but Justin Tucker missed the extra point. So weird things happen. Like, I don't know if it's part of that New Orleans voodoo, if they hexing us, or what do you call it, whatever you call it. Listen, you just never know. And most of the pundits this week seem to be picking New Orleans to win this game. You know, that may bode well for us because we do well in the underdog role. Once people pick us to lose, we tend to win. So, hey, this may be a good thing. But the difference is they had Drew Brees back then. Now they have Andy Dalton, who is 6-19 in primetime games. 6-19. It's not good. He's Kirk Cousins' father. Like, they just, for some reason, they falter when the lights come on and shine the brightest. Now, he is 0-6 in his last 6 primetime games, but his last win actually came against the Ravens. So we cannot sleep on Andy Dalton. He is a Ravens killer. We know that from his time in Cincinnati with lesser teams. He's come out and beat us. So I can't sleep on him. They have Alvin Kamara. They also have Mark Ingram. This could be a revenge game for him, for us doing him dirty and letting him go. He might want that revenge. He may run all over us. Now, for me, one of the lesser known around the league and to some people, threat is going to be Chris Olave. I think Chris Olave is a special rookie. He is a wide receiver that I think now is number 1 in New Orleans. Mike Thomas, he's been hurt. He hasn't been the same for years. And Jarvis Landry, we don't know if he's going to play. So I think that Chris Olave can dominate this game, just like his running mate, Garrett Wilson, did when we played New York. Like, you can see talent. You can see young talent when it's there. And we have to. I don't know who we're going to put on him, but we have to shut him down to stop that passing game and kind of make them one-dimensional. If we stop Olave, if we stop Kamara, we may be in for an easier game. Now, for us offensively, listen, we have our hands full. Like I said, they have Cameron Jordan. They have Marcus Davenport, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, Marshawn Lattimore. They have pieces on defense that can slow us down. So I just want to see kind of like the chess match that Greg Roman is going to have with their defensive coordinator, who's going to come out on top. I know we have Lamar Jackson, so that always gives us a chance to win. But if the pieces around him don't perform, we might be in for a long night. But the biggest X factor to me could possibly be Lamar Jackson Jr. I know that former New Orleans Saint dude said he was better than Lamar. He's a better passer. He's a better all-around QB. But Taysom Hill, because you don't know where Taysom's going to line up. He can line up at quarterback, which is kind of rare nowadays. They don't do it as much. He can line up at running back. He can line up at wide receiver. He can line up at tight end. You just don't know where Taysom Hill is going to be. And I think if we sleep on Taysom, he might do some damage. So make sure you guard that dude. I don't know who we're going to put on him because Smith is going to be on Kamara. I don't know if we have to have Queen spine on him, if we have to put a safety on him. Maybe Kyle Hamilton. Maybe that'll be Kyle Hamilton's job to shut down Taysom Hill. Oy vey. But for some lesser moves, what is going to happen with Deshaun Jackson? What are we doing with Andy Isabella? Like, are they actually going to play this week? I think Deshaun has been with the organization long enough that he's got his wind up. He's learned the playbook that he should be out on the field. We've given him long enough to acclimate himself to being off of his couch. Andy Isabella, I mean, I told y'all from the jump, it wasn't even worth it. Everyone got real excited. We haven't seen him. He came before Deshaun Jackson did. We've not heard a word from him. I don't know if any of you have seen him at practice. I haven't. I don't know where this dude has been. I don't know what he's been doing, but the Cardinals let him go for a reason. They are a wide receiver depleted team that cut a wide receiver. That should tell you everything that you need to know. And the last thing that I'm going to be looking for this game, what are you going to do with Pat Ricard? Shout out to my man Justin P, but that fullback thing, it's almost 2023, bro. I know that's your position. I know you love it. Yes, they have value in certain spots, but a fullback playing a premium percent of the game in the slot, in motion, running routes, it ain't doing it for us. And I think we proved in that second half of the Tampa Bay game, we don't need him. We did better without him. Now I know some of y'all are like, oh, Pat Ricard, Pat Ricard, Pat Ricard. Pat Ricard is another Nick Boyle. Two dudes making $7 million that could have gone elsewhere, that we could have paid a free agent for, that we could have traded somebody to absorb that money. But I give the Ravens credit. Don't get me wrong. With that Roquan Smith trade of his $5 million, Chicago is paying 4 point something mil, and we're only giving up like $500,000. So I give him credit for that move. But re-signing Boyle, re-signing Pat Ricard was not the move. And they're not moving the needle for us winning. They're not helping. As we saw, we had addition by subtraction. We took Project Pat out. We took Drewski Pat out. We took Slot Pat out. And we did better as a team. All right, so let's get into the rest of these picks for week 9 of the NFL action. Starting off with Thursday night football, we have the Philadelphia Eagles visiting the Houston Texans. Now, Philadelphia is still the only undefeated team in the NFL, while Houston is Houston. They made no moves at the trade deadline. They did not get rid of Brandon Cooks. They are not trying to do anything to improve their team and make it any better. I think they're tanking, trying to get one of these quarterbacks because Davis Mills has disappointed me greatly. But on the flip side, Jalen Hurts is doing his thing. For all the people that doubted him and thought that he was just a scrambling quarterback, he had some pretty money throws last week. 3 touchdowns to A.J. Brown that were on the money. So we don't even have to say it. We already know. Philadelphia is going to demolish the Houston Texans. Ugh, what a Thursday night game. Ugh. Next up, we have the slate of Sunday games, starting with the 1 p.m. games. We have the Buffalo Bills visiting New Jersey to take on the New York, New Jersey, Newark, whatever Jets, whatever you want to call them. They're there to take on the Jets. Let me stop playing. I like the Jets. I think they're going to be good in a couple of years. But right now, Buffalo is the superior team, even though I think the Jets are going to put up a fight. I think it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be close early. I think Buffalo pulls away in the end. Still might be about 10, 17 points. But I think the Jets will put up a fight, especially if Zach Wilson isn't playing and they insert Flacco, because they look like a much better team with Joe Flacco. But still, in the end, the apparently Super Bowl bound Buffalo Bills will take this game. Next up is the Air of Disappointment Bowl. We have the Carolina Panthers traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Now, Carolina, that game last week against Atlanta, that was a division matchup. Like, you can expect anything. P.J. Walker, he gives you the good and the bad. He threw a pick six his first pass. He threw a Hail Mary on his last pass. Now, DJ Moore, you should have known better than to take your helmet off, bro. Like, come on. I know you're happy, excited. Kick the extra point. Wait 30 more seconds. Kick the extra point, win the game. Celebrate all you want. But that penalty cost them. They missed it. They missed the extra point. Game went to overtime. They lost. I mean, come on now. So they're taking on Cincinnati that had a Monday night game of their own against division rival Cleveland. Now, for some reason, Joe Burrow and all the success that he's had in the NFL, he cannot seem to beat the Browns. I think he's 0-5 against the Browns. It hasn't been good. Now, I know Jamar Chase was not there, but you still have Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. They came on late. It just was enough. They couldn't stop Nick Chubb, who really can. They weren't making plays. They were dropping balls. Cincinnati has been a real disappointment. They upgraded or supposedly upgraded the offensive line. It hasn't really worked. But in this game, I just think that Carolina, being that it's semi-tanking, I'm going to have to give this win to Cincinnati. In our next matchup, we have the NFC North, Green Bay Packers heading to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. Now, both teams have been a disappointment. I thought Detroit would be a little bit better with Dan Campbell. Like, he made me a believer. I thought that they were going to be good, but for some reason, that franchise is snake bitten and they cannot get it together. Now, Aaron Rodgers, he's out here just throwing around, not balls, people under the bus. You know, it's everybody's fault but his. Aaron has not been playing well. He needs to include himself in those statements. He's not been playing well. He's been underthrowing people. I know the receivers drop balls, but they've been wide open, and he's missed a lot of throws. He needs to take some accountability as the leader, and I think take those guys under his wing. But Green Bay is just not a good team. I think Aaron Jones is their best option. I don't think that they run him enough. Him and A.J. Dillon, I think they kind of need to take the ball out of Rodgers' hands. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I just think they need to do a little bit more running. The defense is not up to par what we thought it was going to be, but Detroit has just been a little bit worse. So I think that the Green Bay Packers should take this game in a tight one. It's a toss-up, but Green Bay's probably going to win this. Next up, Indianapolis going up to the Northeast to play the New England Patriots. Now, I don't think Jonathan Taylor is going to play. He's been battling a nagging ankle injury all season. If he doesn't, that just complicates things more than it has. Sam Ehlinger is the quarterback for Indy. They have just not been playing good football. I still don't understand how they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but they did. New England, they have a quarterback problem because Mac Jones, I've been saying it all along, he's not that guy. He's not that guy. And Bailey Zappi has been playing better, but he does not have the experience, nor does New England have the offensive talent. I'm still perplexed at how you have a defensive coordinator being your offensive coordinator. That makes no sense to me. I know Bill Belichick is supposed to be a genius, but that makes no sense because his situational awareness is lacking. With that being said, I guess I'll give the win to New England. They should win this game anyway with what Indy got going on over there. In a matchup of young hot quarterbacks, we have the Los Angeles Chargers traveling down to A-Town to take on the Atlanta Falcons. I take that first statement back. Hot quarterback. We just have Justin Herbert because Marcus Mariota is not that guy. They're getting wins. He's not that guy. The Chargers have been having a disappointing season, but to some it's not really disappointing because Justin Herbert and that team have really not accomplished anything. I think that they're blaming the head coach. He's just not managing this team the way that he should with all the talent that they have. Now, Atlanta, they're scrappy. They're trying to make a way. They keep games close. They beat San Francisco handily. Like, they have their moments, but I just don't believe in them. So I'm going to have to go with the Chargers narrowly taking this victory. In another 1 o'clock matchup, we have the Las Vegas Raiders traveling down to Duval to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, as I said earlier, Las Vegas, hot mess. Josh McDaniels should have never been a head coach again in the NFL. How, Sway, do you play the New Orleans Saints? Not saying that the Saints are bad, but how do you play the Saints and you don't cross the 50? You don't cross the 50. You do not score a point. You have 138 yards total offense. Devontae Adams has 3 yards receiving. I don't know how that happens. But once again, that's what happens when you have talent and you have bad coaching. They don't know what to do, and that's what Josh McDaniels is. So with that being said, I trust Trevor Lawrence in the Jacksonville defense just a little bit more than I do Las Vegas. So Jags for the win. Now, what's going to be an interesting matchup for me is the Miami Dolphins traveling to the Midwest to take on the Chicago Bears. Now, Miami, with their newly minted pass rusher in Bradley Chubb, I think that they now have catapulted themselves into that top echelon of teams in the AFC. They were sorely missing a pass rusher. That's why they did their zero blitz so much, because they couldn't get home with the four that they have. Now, Riley and Fold, I think that makes this team a little more dynamic on defense. They're getting a little healthy. I don't know what's going on with Byron Jones, but once he comes back healthy, I think that will solidify this defense. And offensively, we already know. Tyreek Hill, he had 180-something yards receiving. Jalen Waddle, 2 touchdowns. Tua, if he stays healthy, I think that Miami is going to challenge Buffalo for the AFC title. Now, the Chicago Bears, the one team that I actually feel sorry for, the one team that I look at and I look at their wide receiver room and say, hey, it could be worse. It could be worse. The Baltimore Ravens could be worse. They could be the Chicago Bears. I know they have Daryl Mooney, and they just traded for Chase Claypool, which I don't think is really an upgrade too much because he doesn't utilize his size. He's a Notre Dame wide receiver, and we know Notre Dame wide receivers, they don't really do too much. Justin Fields, he's starting to pass for more than 100 yards, which is a good thing. I think in today's NFL, a quarterback through 4 quarters of play should be able to pass for more than 100 yards, and he's accomplishing that, and it's not all his fault. He is rushing the ball. He is getting 70, 80 yards rushing a game. I need him to do that. He's on one of my fantasy teams. But Miami's just going to be too much unless there is some ungodly weather that prohibits Miami from throwing the ball. Now, they did just trade for Jeff Wilson, which should help them out, and he's familiar with Mike McDaniel's system. So now we're adding a run game to this prolific passing game. And I just think that makes Miami that much more dangerous. So I think that Miami easily wins this, especially with Chicago trading Robert Quinn, taking some of that pass rush away. Miami's just going to dominate them boys. Now, in our last matchup of 1 o'clock games, we have the Minnesota Vikings traveling to the District of Columbia to take on the Washington Commies. Now, surprising to most of us all, I think the Vikings are in second place in the NFC, only lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. So they want you to believe that they're for real, but it's Kirk Cousins. It's Kirk Cousins. I mean, it's Kirk Cousins. So they can't be real, can they? Nah, they're not. They're not real. But they're playing the Washington Commanders, so it doesn't make a difference if they're real or not. Washington Commanders just aren't that team. They aren't good. They're having issues with their owner who's seeking possibly selling the team. He's being investigated by the federal government. This team is just one hot mess. So I think that with Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, Minnesota Vikings are going to win this game. Now let's take a look at our 4 o'clock games, which I feel a little cheated on because there are only 2 of them. First up, we have the Seattle Seahawks traveling to the desert to take on the Arizona Cardinals. Once again, props to Geno Smith. He's proven a lot of people wrong. He actually is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Don't know what's going on with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. He's been dropping a few balls, but Kenneth Walker is the truth. That kid from Michigan State is the truth. Him and Geno are propelling this team to wins that I didn't think was possible. I thought with Russell Wilson being gone, they were going to struggle mightily, but they have not. Now, with the Arizona Cardinals, you thought that bringing in all of these weapons to surround Kyler Murray, that things were going to kind of shift a little bit and he was going to play better. You thought that with the new contract and the stipulation that he studies more, his game would improve. But he's still playing backyard football. He's still running around, just making silly mistakes. And I think he's costing his team in a lot of these wins. So I think Seattle takes this one in a close game. I don't think it's going to be much scoring, but Seattle for the win. And in our last 4 o'clock game, we have the struggle bus game. This is the game of the struggling past 2 Super Bowl champions with the defending champion Los Angeles Rams visiting Tampa Bay in Florida. Now, as we saw last week, Tom Brady, something's just not right with him. I don't know if his personal life is affecting him, but his arm strength looks to have just depleted, just gone. His throws are off. They're short. You know, I don't know if he still has it. I don't know if it's psychological, what's going on, but the Bucs are a mess. That offense is a hot mess. You know, I know that the offensive line isn't what it used to be, but you still have Godwin and you still have Mike Evans. You have Leonard Fournette. They should not look the way that they did. Luckily, against Baltimore last week, they started to run on us, but they stopped running and said we're going to pass for the rest of the game, and that was to their detriment. Their defense isn't as stout as it used to be. I don't know what's going on with Devin White. Tyler Lindenbaum, shout out to my man. He made him look like a rookie. It's like White didn't even want to play anymore. He just gave up mid-game. But the Rams are equally as sorry. I don't know what's going on with all of that firepower that they have, all that they have on defense. They're just not getting it done. And I know that it begins and ends with Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford has not stopped Staffording since the playoffs last year. He just can't seem to get it together. I don't know if they just need to put everyone in a Cooper Kupp jersey, and in that way he'll spread the ball around and kind of make this offense click, because it seems like, hey, Cooper Kupp is the only guy that he knows to throw to, and that is to the detriment of that team. Sean McVay, you need to get a running game. You need to get a better running back. I know they tried to get Christian McCaffrey and they failed, but you got to do something, bro, because what you're doing isn't working. You are going to go from the penthouse to the outhouse, winning the Super Bowl, to not even close to making the playoffs, especially in that division that you're in, which you could possibly easily win, but I just don't see it happening. So with this game, I would normally go with the home team, but I just think Tom Brady just looks done. Or is this the game that he says, you know what, I prove everybody wrong? But I don't believe in Matt Stafford. But All right, I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams to win this game. Now, for Sunday Night Football, we have the Tennessee Titans visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. I know there's been some talk this week about Tennessee feeling like they are the more physical team, that they're going to wear Kansas City down, and that's going to propel them to a victory. But Tennessee does not have Patrick Mahomes. I don't even think they have Ryan Tannehill. I think Malik Willis is going to start again, and he did not look well. He did not play well that last game. He looked like a rookie. And if that happens, Kansas City is going to blow the brakes off of these dudes. If Ryan Tannehill plays, different story. They're going to blow the wheels off these dudes. Like, no matter where you put it, it's prime time in Kansas City. I just think Patrick Mahomes has a little bit too much going on up there to be stopped. It might get to the point where newly acquired Kadarius Toney, they just play around with him just to see what he can do, because they're going to be up by so much. If Derrick Henry does not give a superhuman performance, Tennessee will not be able to stay in this game. They won't. I mean, offensively, they don't have anything else. I don't know what Treylon Burks is really doing over there, but the quarterback play is poor. So I don't know if it's the wide receiving core, if it's the quarterback, if it's the offensive coordinator. They're just not getting it done. Now, they've won some games, but they have not been pretty. And if Derrick Henry has not willed them to victory, it just isn't happening. So Kansas City big, real big, super big. Pause. Now, to the game that we've been waiting for, Monday Night Football, prime time, lights only game in town that day. We have the Baltimore Ravens going down to the Superdome in Louisiana to play the New Orleans Saints. I think we remember a very, very special game in the Superdome some years ago where we came out victorious. I know somebody turned out the lights on us, but we still held tough and won. Now, I know all the voodoo magic and everything else, witchcraft and all them is going to be out trying to hex us. But I think that offensively, if Greg Roman sticks to the game plan, if he makes adjustments, that should lead us to an easy win. But let us not forget, Andy Dalton is a Ravens killer. He somehow finds ways to win games against us. I don't get it. He's not that talented. He makes a lot of mistakes, especially in prime time, and I think that may be his undoing. He doesn't play well under the lights. He seems to panic. He throws a lot of interceptions. He just does not look good at all. With that being said, I think it's going to be a tight game, and the Baltimore Ravens should pull out this victory on Monday Night Football. Now, that is your preview for Week 9 of NFL action. I thank you all for stopping by. Listen, come by every Thursday for your Ravens news, your NFL picks. I got you right here. So make sure you like the video, you subscribe, you comment, you share it with your friends. Whatever you can do to help this channel grow, I appreciate it. And until next week, I'm out.